She was the most untouchable CEO in the country, until 3 hired killers walked into her charity gala with silenced weapons and a single mission: eliminate her before midnight. But they didn't account for the quiet caterer in the black apron, the one refilling champagne glasses and keeping his head down. A single father, an ex-sniper, a man who had sworn he'd never look through a scope again. What started as 3 bullets meant for her heart became the beginning of something no contract killer could have predicted, and no boardroom strategy could contain. A love story born in crosshairs and chaos, where the man serving hors d'oeuvres would become the only thing standing between her and a grave. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The Astoria Grand Ballroom glittered like a jewelry box turned inside out. Crystal chandeliers the size of small cars hung from vaulted ceilings, casting fractured light across marble floors polished to mirror shine. Every table was draped in ivory silk. Every centerpiece cost more than most people's rent, and every guest wore a smile that said they belonged here. In this world of wealth and influence, at the annual Silvercrest Foundation Gala, Carter Rhodes did not belong here. He knew it. They knew it. But nobody said it out loud because he was wearing a black apron and carrying a tray of smoked salmon canapes, which made him invisible in all the ways that mattered. He moved through the crowd like smoke, refilling champagne flutes, clearing empty plates, nodding politely when someone snapped their fingers at him without looking. His dark hair was tied back neatly. His white shirt was starched and spotless. His hands were steady, efficient, unremarkable. Nobody noticed the way his eyes swept the room in calculated intervals. Nobody saw the way his body angled toward exits, or how his weight stayed balanced on the balls of his feet. Nobody ever noticed Carter Rhodes, and that was exactly how he preferred it. 5 years ago, he had been someone else entirely, someone with clearance levels and classified assignments. Someone who could put a round through a keyhole from 800 meters in high wind. Someone whose hands had ended lives with a pull of a trigger and the discipline not to hesitate. But that man was gone now, buried under hospital bills, custody hearings, and late-night shifts in restaurant kitchens. Now he was just a single father trying to keep his head above water and his daughter safe. His daughter, Summer, 10 years old, brilliant, stubborn, and fighting a blood disorder that required treatments he could barely afford even with 3 jobs. Tonight's gig paid double because of the high-profile guest list. He needed every dollar. So he smiled when required, stayed silent when ignored, and did not let himself think about how much he hated rooms like this. Rooms where people spent more on a single bottle of wine than he made in a month. At the front of the ballroom, on a raised platform beneath a spotlight that could blind a small aircraft, stood Vanessa Palmer. She was the reason 400 people had paid $10,000 a plate to be here tonight. CEO of Arcadia Industries, the fastest-growing tech conglomerate in the Western Hemisphere. Youngest woman to ever take a company public before age 30. Forbes cover. TED Talk veteran. A woman who, according to the press, had ice water in her veins and fire in her strategy. She wore a tailored midnight blue gown that somehow looked both elegant and armor-like. Her dark hair was pulled into a sleek twist. Her expression was calm, controlled, gracious. But Carter noticed something the others didn't. The way her fingers tightened slightly on the microphone. The way her gaze flicked toward the exit doors just a fraction too often. The way her breathing was a half-second too measured. She was afraid. And she was hiding it beautifully. Carter didn't know why he noticed. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was the same sense that used to tell him when a perimeter was compromised or when an asset was about to bolt. Either way, something was wrong. He moved to the side of the room, setting his tray down on a service table near the kitchen doors. His eyes scanned the crowd again, slower this time. That's when he saw them. 3 men. Different tables, different sections, but all of them alone. All of them watching Vanessa Palmer, with a kind of focus that had nothing to do with admiration. The first man sat near the back, close to the balcony doors. Mid-40 seconds, gray suit, expensive watch. His hand rested inside his jacket. Not casually, deliberately. The second man stood by the bar, nursing a drink he hadn't sipped once. Younger, clean-cut, athletic build. His eyes tracked Vanessa's every movement. The third man was near the stage itself, pretending to check his phone. But his thumb wasn't moving. He wasn't scrolling. He was waiting. Carter's pulse didn't spike. It steadied, slowed. The old rhythm, returning like muscle memory. He reached for his phone, opened the camera app, and zoomed in on the man by the balcony doors. The jacket shifted slightly. Carter saw it. The outline of a suppressor. Long. Professional. He moved. Not toward Vanessa, not yet. Toward the kitchen. He slipped through the swinging doors and found the head caterer, a stressed woman named Lila Curtis, barking orders at a line cook. "I need your earpiece," Carter said quietly. Lila turned, annoyed. "What?" "No, I needed to coordinate." Carter stepped closer, his voice dropping. "There are 3 armed men in that ballroom, and in about 90 seconds, they're going to kill Vanessa Palmer unless you give me that earpiece, and trust me." Lila's face went pale. She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw something in his eyes that made her hand move to her ear without another word. She handed it over. Carter fitted it in, adjusted the frequency, and grabbed a wine bottle from the counter, not full, half empty, heavier. He walked back into the ballroom just as Vanessa finished her speech. Applause erupted. The 3 men moved simultaneously. The one by the balcony doors stood. The one at the bar set down his glass. The one near the stage reached into his jacket. Carter didn't run. Running would draw attention, cause panic, and get people killed. Instead, he walked with purpose, the wine bottle held loosely in his right hand. He angled toward the stage, weaving through tables, his eyes locked on the man closest to Vanessa. The man's hand emerged from his jacket. Black polymer, suppressor attached, aimed at Vanessa's center mass. Carter closed the distance in 4 strides. The man's finger moved to the trigger. Carter swung the wine bottle in a controlled arc. It connected with the man's wrist, a sharp crack that sent the gun clattering to the floor. Before anyone could scream, Carter drove his knee into the man's sternum and swept his legs. The man went down hard, gasping. Now people noticed. Shouts erupted. Vanessa turned, eyes wide. The second man by the bar drew his weapon. Carter didn't hesitate. He kicked the first man's gun across the floor, grabbed a serving tray from a nearby table, and hurled it like a discus. It hit the second man square in the face, buying Carter 2 seconds. He sprinted toward him, low and fast. The man recovered, swinging his gun toward the crowd. Carter tackled him into the bar. Glasses shattered. Bottles exploded. They hit the ground together, and Carter's training took over. Elbow to the jaw. Twist the wrist. Disarm, neutralize. The gun skittered away. The man didn't get up. The third man ran. Not toward Vanessa. Toward the balcony exit. Carter let him go. Priorities. He turned back to Vanessa. She stood frozen on the stage, surrounded by panicked guests, her face pale but her eyes sharp, calculating, locked on him. Security finally arrived, flooding the room in black suits and earpieces. Carter stepped back, blending into the chaos. He didn't wait for questions. Didn't wait for gratitude. He slipped through the kitchen doors, untied his apron, and walked out the service exit into the cool night air. His hands were steady, his breathing even. But his mind was racing, because for the first time in 5 years, Carter Rhodes had been seen. And that was dangerous. He pulled out his phone and texted his neighbor. "Running late. Can you stay with Summer another hour?" The reply came instantly. "Of course. She's asleep. Take your time." Carter exhaled slowly, leaning against the brick wall. He had saved a woman's life tonight. He should have felt something. Pride, relief, satisfaction. Instead, all he felt was dread. Because somewhere in that ballroom, Vanessa Palmer now knew his face. And people like her didn't just forget. The story hit every news channel by morning. Assassination attempt on tech CEO. foiled by mystery, Caterer. The footage was grainy, pulled from security cameras that hadn't been designed to capture heroes, only liability. But it was enough. Enough to see a man in a black apron move like lightning. Enough to see him disarm trained killers with nothing but a wine bottle and reflexes that didn't belong in a catering uniform. Vanessa Palmer sat in her penthouse office on the 62nd floor of the Arcadia Tower, a glass and steel monument to ambition that pierced the skyline like a shard of ice. Below her, the city sprawled in every direction, small and manageable from this height. But up here, alone, she didn't feel powerful. She felt hunted. The three hitmen had been professionals, the kind you hired when failure wasn't an option. Two were in custody now, silent as graves. The third had vanished like smoke, which meant whoever wanted her dead was still out there. Still planning, still patient. The police had assigned her a protection detail. 6 officers, rotating shifts, all of them useless. She had seen the way they looked at her, like she was a problem to manage, not a person to protect. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. But the caterer, he had looked at her differently, not with awe, not with greed, with focus, with purpose. Like saving her life was simply the next logical step in a sequence only he could see. She needed to find him. Her head of security, a former FBI agent named Grayson Foster, entered without knocking. "We have a name," he said, dropping a file on her desk. Carter Rhodes, age 37, former Marine Corps sniper, honorably discharged 5 years ago. Current employment, freelance catering, overnight warehouse shifts, and weekend landscaping. Single father. 1 daughter, Summer Rhodes, age 10. Medical records indicate she has a chronic blood disorder requiring ongoing treatment. Vanessa opened the file. A photo stared back at her. Driver's license, unsmiling, unremarkable. But his eyes, they carried weight. The kind of weight that came from seeing too much and surviving it. "Where does he live?" she asked. Grayson hesitated. "Vanessa, I don't think this is a good idea. I didn't ask for your opinion. I asked for an address." He sighed. "Moonridge Apartments, Unit 14C. It's in the Northbridge district." She stood, grabbing her coat. "Have the car brought around. You're not seriously going there alone." She looked at him. "He saved my life. The least I can do is say thank you." Grayson didn't argue further. He knew better. The Northbridge district was not a place where CEOs went voluntarily. The buildings were squat and tired. Laundry hung from balconies. Graffiti decorated walls in colors that might have been art or anger, depending on who you asked. Vanessa's black sedan stood out like a tuxedo at a barbecue. She ignored the stairs and climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor. Unit 14C. The door was painted green once. Now it was mostly gray. She knocked. No answer. She knocked again. The door opened. Not all the way, just enough to reveal a young girl with wide brown eyes and a suspicious frown. "We don't want any," the girl said flatly. Vanessa blinked. "I'm not selling anything." "Then what do you want?" "I'm looking for Carter Rhodes." The girl's eyes narrowed. "Why?" Before Vanessa could answer, a voice called from inside. "Summer, who's at the door?" Carter appeared behind his daughter, wearing jeans and a faded gray shirt. His hair was still damp from a shower. When he saw Vanessa, he went very still. "Miss Palmer," he said carefully. "Mr. Rhodes," she replied. Summer looked between them, her frown deepening. "You know her?" Carter's jaw tightened. "Go finish your homework." "But Dad." "Now, sweetheart." Summer huffed but obeyed, retreating into the apartment with one last suspicious glance at Vanessa. Carter stepped into the hallway, pulling the door closed behind him. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly. "I came to thank you. You don't owe me anything. You saved my life." He looked away. "I did what anyone would do." "No," Vanessa said firmly. You did what no one else could." They stood in silence for a moment, the fluorescent hallway light buzzing overhead. Finally, Carter spoke. "How did you find me?" "I have resources." "Then you know I'm nobody." "I know you're somebody who can disarm 3 professional killers without breaking a sweat." "That's not nobody." Carter met her eyes. "What do you want, Miss Palmer?" She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "I want to know why you walked away." "Because I don't belong in your world. You belonged there more than anyone else in that room." He shook his head. "I have a daughter to think about. I can't afford attention. I can't afford questions. I just need to keep my head down and take care of her." Vanessa glanced at the closed door. "Summer." "Yes." "She's sick." Carter's expression hardened. "That's none of your concern. It is if you're working 3 jobs to pay for treatment." His silence was answer enough. Vanessa reached into her coat and pulled out an envelope. She held it out. Carter didn't take it. "What is that?" he asked. "A thank you. I don't want your money. It's not charity. It's gratitude." "I don't want your gratitude either." She lowered the envelope but didn't put it away. "Then what do you want?" Carter leaned against the wall, exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. "I want to wake up every morning and know my daughter's going to be okay. I want to not have to choose between paying rent and paying for her medication. I want to stop feeling like I'm drowning." Vanessa's voice softened. "Then, let me help." "Why?" "Because you helped me." "That's not how the world works." "It's how my world works," she said. "And whether you like it or not, you're in it now." Before Carter could respond, the door behind him opened again. Summer peeked out. "Dad, I'm hungry." Carter sighed. "I'll make you something in a minute." Summer looked at Vanessa again, this time with more curiosity than suspicion. "Are you the lady from the TV?" Vanessa smiled faintly. "Yes." "You're prettier in person." Carter groaned. "Summer." "What?" "She is." Vanessa laughed, a real laugh. "Not the polished corporate kind." "Thank you." Summer studied her. "Why are you really here?" "Summer," Carter warned. But Vanessa crouched down to the girl's eye level. "I came to meet your father. He did something very brave, and I wanted to tell him that." Summer looked at Carter. "Did you beat up bad guys again?" "Summer, he doesn't like to talk about it," Summer said to Vanessa. "But he's really good at it. He used to be a soldier." Vanessa's eyes flicked to Carter. "I know." Summer tilted her head. "Do you need him to beat up more bad guys?" Vanessa smiled sadly. "Maybe." "Then you should hire him. He needs a better job. His boss at the warehouse is mean." Carter rubbed his face. "That's enough." But Vanessa was already thinking, an idea forming, dangerous, unconventional, exactly the kind of move that had built her empire. She stood. "Mr. Rhodes, can we talk?" Privately, Carter glanced at Summer. "Go inside. I'll be right there." Summer obeyed reluctantly. Carter crossed his arms. "I'm not interested in whatever you're about to offer. You haven't heard it yet." "I don't need to." "The answer's no." Vanessa stepped closer. "I need protection, real protection, not cops playing bodyguard, not ex-agents who see me as a paycheck. Someone who knows what they're doing, someone who doesn't want anything from me, except to do the job right." Carter's expression didn't change. "Hire a security firm." "I did. They failed." "Then hire a better one." "I'm looking at him." Carter shook his head. "I don't do that anymore." "Why not?" "Because I have a daughter who needs me alive." Vanessa's voice dropped. "And she needs you able to pay for her treatment." The words hung between them like a blade. Carter's jaw clenched. "That's a low blow." "It's the truth." He was silent for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. "Even if I said yes, which I'm not, what exactly are you proposing?" Vanessa took a breath. "I need someone close. Someone who can be there without raising suspicion. Someone who blends in. A bodyguard who doesn't look like a bodyguard. Exactly. Carter frowned. What did you have in mind? She met his eyes. A husband. Carter stared at her like she'd just suggested they rob a bank together. I'm sorry. What? Vanessa didn't flinch. A husband. For appearances. A contract marriage. You're serious. Completely. Carter laughed. But it wasn't a happy sound. It was the laugh of a man who had seen too much absurdity in his life to be surprised anymore. You want to fake marry me so I can be your bodyguard. I want to hire you as my husband so you can protect me without anyone knowing that's what you're doing. There's a difference. He shook his head. This is insane. This is strategic. This is illegal. It's not. People enter into marriages of convenience all the time. As long as both parties consent and no fraud is being committed for immigration purposes, it's perfectly legal. I've already consulted with my attorneys. Carter leaned against the wall. Arms crossed. Carter leaned against the wall. Arms crossed. Of course you have. The arrangement would be simple, Vanessa continued, her tone shifting into the same calm authority she used in boardrooms. We stage a whirlwind romance. You move into my estate. You accompany me to public events. In private, you do what you do best. Keep me alive. In exchange, I pay you a salary of $500,000 per year, cover all of Summer's medical expenses, and provide private tutoring and care for her while you're working. Carter's expression flickered. Just for a second. But Vanessa saw it. She pressed forward. After 1 year, we stage an amicable divorce. You walk away with enough money to build a real life for your daughter. No more warehouse shifts. No more choosing between rent and medication. Just stability. And what do you get out of this? Carter asked. I get to stay alive long enough to figure out who wants me dead, and why. I get someone I can trust in a world where trust is a luxury I can't afford. And I get to stop looking over my shoulder every time I walk into a room. Carter was quiet. Vanessa could see the gears turning behind his eyes. What about Summer? He asked finally. What about her? She's 10 years old. You're asking me to uproot her life, move her into a stranger's house, and lie to her about why? Vanessa softened. We don't have to lie. We can tell her the truth. That I need help, and you're helping me. That it's temporary, that it's a job. She's a smart girl. She'll know something's off. Then she'll also know her father is doing what he has to do to take care of her. She'll understand. Carter pushed off the wall, pacing the narrow hallway. This is crazy. You don't even know me. I know you threw yourself between me and 3 killers without hesitation. I know you work 3 jobs to keep your daughter alive. I know you're a good father and a good man. That's more than I know about most people in my life. He stopped, looking at her directly. Why me? You could hire a dozen ex-special forces guys who'd jump at this. Because they'd want the job for the wrong reasons. Money. Access. Prestige. You don't want this at all, which means you'll do it right. Carter rubbed his face. I need time to think. You have 24 hours. After that, I go with Plan B. What's Plan B? I don't have one yet. Despite himself, Carter almost smiled. Almost. Vanessa reached into her coat again, pulling out a business card. My private number. Call me when you decide. She turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, Mr. Rhodes, I don't make offers like this lightly. I'm not asking you to pretend to love me. I'm asking you to help me survive. And in return, I'll help you give your daughter the life she deserves. She walked away, her heels clicking against the concrete stairs. Carter stood there, card in hand, staring at nothing. Behind him, the door creaked open. Summer peeked out. Is she gone? Yeah. What did she want? Carter looked down at his daughter. Her face was pale today, tired. The treatments were getting harder, the bills were getting higher, and the choices were getting fewer. She offered me a job, he said quietly. Are you going to take it? I don't know yet. Summer stepped into the hallway, wrapping her arms around his waist. You should. Why? Because you always tell me that sometimes we have to do hard things to make good things happen. And she seems like she really needs help. Carter held his daughter close, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. When did you get so wise? I learned from you, Dad. That night, after Summer was asleep, Carter sat at their small kitchen table with Vanessa's card in front of him. He thought about honor, about duty, about the oath he'd taken once to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. He thought about the men he'd killed from 1,000 yards away. Clean, efficient, necessary. He thought about the man he'd become after leaving that life behind. Tired, broke, desperate. And he thought about his daughter, sleeping in the next room, fighting a battle she didn't choose with weapons he couldn't afford. At 2:47 inches the morning, he picked up his phone and dialed. She answered on the first ring. Mr. Rhodes. I have conditions, he said. I'm listening. Summer comes with me everywhere. No exceptions. If you're at an event and she can't be there, I'm not there either. Agreed. I don't wear a ring. I don't play happy couple in front of cameras. I'll stand next to you. I'll keep you safe, but I'm not an actor. Understood. And if at any point I think this is putting my daughter in danger, I walk. No arguments, no negotiations. Fair enough. Carter took a breath. One more thing. Yes. Why do you really need this? You have money. You have power. You could disappear tomorrow and start over somewhere safe. So why stay? Why fight? There was a long pause. When Vanessa spoke again, her voice was different, quieter, more human. Because if I run, they win. Whoever they are, whatever they want, they win. And I've spent my entire life refusing to let anyone make me smaller than I am. I'm not about to start now. Carter nodded, even though she couldn't see it. Okay. Okay. I'll do it. 1 year. For Summer. Thank you, Mr. Rhodes. Call me Carter. Then call me Vanessa. One more thing, Vanessa. Yes? If this goes sideways, if your enemies come after my daughter because of this, I will end them. Do you understand? I will end them in ways that won't make the news because there won't be anything left to report. Vanessa didn't hesitate. I would expect nothing less. They hung up. Carter sat in the dark for a long time, wondering if he'd just made the best decision of his life or the worst. In her penthouse, Vanessa stood by the window, looking out at the city that had tried to kill her. She pressed her palm against the cold glass. Let them come, she whispered. Because now, she had something they didn't expect. A weapon they'd never see coming. A man who'd already lost everything once and refused to lose it again. The game had changed, and Vanessa Palmer always played to win. The iron gates of Whitestone Estate opened with a whisper that felt like a judgment. Carter gripped the steering wheel of his 15-year-old pickup truck, its engine rattling like loose change in a tin can, and tried not to think about how much the security camera at the entrance probably cost compared to his entire vehicle. Summer sat in the passenger seat, nose pressed against the window, eyes wide. Dad, this place has a fountain. I see it. A fountain with statues. Yep. Is that a peacock? Carter glanced over. Sure enough, a peacock strutted across the manicured lawn like it owned the place. Which, in a way, it probably did. Looks like it. Summer turned to him, her face a mixture of wonder and worry. Are we really going to live here? For a while. How long? A year. Maybe less. She was quiet for a moment, then. Is this because of my treatments? Carter pulled the truck to a stop in front of the main house, a 3-story limestone mansion that looked like it had been airlifted from a European countryside. This is because I got a good job. A job that's going to help us. That's all you need to know. Summer studied his face with the uncomfortable precision of someone who'd spent too much time in hospitals learning to read what adults weren't saying. You don't have to lie to protect me, Dad. I'm not a baby. I'm not lying. I'm just not telling you everything. What's the difference? About 10 years of life experience. Before Summer could argue, the front doors opened. Vanessa emerged, dressed more casually than Carter had ever seen her. Tailored slacks, a cream blouse, her hair loose around her shoulders. Behind her, a woman in her 60s wearing a gray cardigan, and a skeptical expression followed. Clipboard in hand, Carter stepped out of the truck. Vanessa approached, her smile polite but genuine. "You made it." Traffic wasn't bad. She looked at his truck, then at him, and something flickered across her face. Amusement, maybe. Or pity. Carter couldn't tell which would be worse. "Leave the truck here. Grayson will have someone move it to the staff garage." "Staff garage? It's around back. Your vehicle will be safe there." Carter wanted to argue, but Summer was already out of the truck, staring at the house like it might disappear if she blinked. Vanessa turned her attention to the girl. "You must be Summer." Summer nodded shyly. "You have a really big house." "Thank you. I hope you'll be comfortable here. We've prepared a room for you on the second floor, East Wing. It has a view of the garden." "Does it have a bathroom?" "It has two." Summer's eyes went huge. "2 bathrooms? Just for me?" Vanessa smiled. "Just for you." The woman with the clipboard stepped forward. "I'm Ariana Steele, head of household operations. If you need anything, you come to me. Meals are served at 7, noon, and 6. No food in the bedrooms. No shoes on the Persian rugs. No touching the art. Any questions?" Carter opened his mouth, but Ariana cut him off. "Good. Follow me." The inside of Whitestone Estate was exactly what Carter expected. High ceilings, original oil paintings, furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum, and the kind of silence that only money could buy. Their footsteps echoed on marble floors. Summer walked close to Carter, her hand finding his. Ariana led them up a sweeping staircase to the second floor, down a hallway lined with portraits of stern-looking people, who probably never smiled in life either. She stopped at a door painted soft lavender. "This is Summer's room." She opened it. Summer gasped. The room was larger than their entire apartment. A 4-poster bed sat in the center, dressed in white linens and approximately 1 million pillows. A bay window overlooked a garden that belonged on a postcard. Bookshelves lined one wall. A desk with a brand new laptop sat beneath a chandelier that sparkled like captured starlight. "This is mine," Summer whispered. Ariana's expression softened, just barely. "Yes." Summer looked up at Carter. "Can I stay here?" "Really? Really?" he said quietly. She ran into the room, touching everything like she needed to confirm it was real. Vanessa stood in the doorway. "I hope it's all right. I wasn't sure what she'd like." "It's perfect," Carter said. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. You haven't seen your room." She led him further down the hall, to a door at the far end. She opened it. The space beyond was masculine and understated. Dark wood furniture. A king-sized bed. Floor-to-ceiling windows. And a private terrace. It was 3 times the size of his and Summer's apartment. "This is the guest suite," Vanessa said. "It's yours for as long as you're here." Carter stepped inside slowly, like he was entering a crime scene. "Where's your room?" "Other side of the house, 3rd floor." "That's a problem." She raised an eyebrow. "How so?" "If someone breaks in, I'm too far away to respond fast enough. We have security." Security didn't stop 3 hitmen at the gala. Vanessa was quiet for a moment. "What do you suggest?" "I sleep closer. Same floor as you, ideally next door. The room next to mine is my office. Then I sleep in your office." "Carter, this was the deal, Vanessa. I protect you. I can't do that from a different wing." She studied him, then nodded. "Fine. I'll have Ariana prepare the office guest room. It's smaller. I don't need space. I need proximity. You're very intense, you know that. You hired intense." That evening, after their belongings had been moved in and Summer had explored every corner of her new room at least twice, Ariana summoned them to dinner. The dining room could seat 20. 3 places were set at one end of a table that stretched like an airport runway. Carter sat across from Vanessa, Summer sat between them, kicking her legs under the table because her feet didn't reach the floor. A chef Carter didn't see prepared food he couldn't pronounce. The first course arrived, something green and leafy with gold flakes on top. Summer poked it with her fork. "What is this?" "Microgreens with edible gold and champagne vinaigrette," Ariana said from the doorway. Summer looked at Carter. He looked at Vanessa. Vanessa cleared her throat. "It's salad." "Oh." Summer took a tiny bite, chewed thoughtfully, then whispered, "It tastes like expensive grass." Carter choked on his water. Vanessa tried very hard not to laugh. Ariana's expression suggested this household was doomed. The rest of dinner was a study in awkward silence. Vanessa asked polite questions about Summer's favorite subjects in school. Summer answered between bites of food she was clearly too intimidated to admit she didn't like. Carter said almost nothing, his eyes constantly scanning the room, the windows, the doors. After dessert, a chocolate thing that looked like architecture, Summer excused herself to take a bath in one of her 2 bathrooms. Carter and Vanessa were left alone. "She's charming," Vanessa said. "She's overwhelmed." "So are you." Carter leaned back in his chair. "I don't belong here." "You keep saying that." "Because it keeps being true." Vanessa set down her wine glass. "You belong wherever you decide to be. That's how belonging works. Easy to say when you were born into this." Her expression hardened. "I wasn't." Carter blinked. "What?" "I wasn't born into wealth, Carter. I built it. My father was a mechanic. My mother cleaned houses. I put myself through community college working 3 jobs, just like you. I got into Stanford on scholarship, graduated top of my class, and clawed my way up from nothing." Carter was quiet. "I didn't know that. Most people don't. I don't advertise it. People prefer the story where I inherited everything. It makes them feel better about their own choices." "Why are you telling me?" "Because you're going to be living here, standing next to me. And if you're going to protect me, you need to understand something. I don't take this life for granted. I earned every inch of it, and I'll be damned if someone takes it from me." Carter met her eyes. For the first time since they met, he saw past the polish, past the control. He saw the fighter underneath. "Okay," he said simply. "Okay. Okay. I get it." Later that night, Carter checked on Summer. She was already asleep, buried under blankets that probably cost more than a car payment. Her face peaceful in a way it hadn't been in months. He closed her door quietly and walked to his new room, the smaller one next to Vanessa's office. It was barely larger than a closet, but it had a bed and a clear line of sight to her door. Good enough. He lay down fully clothed, phone on his chest, and didn't sleep. Old habits. At 2:00 the morning, he heard footsteps. Soft. Hesitant. He was on his feet instantly, door open before the person could knock. Vanessa stood there in silk pajamas and a robe, her face pale. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "I keep hearing things." "What kind of things?" "I don't know. Probably nothing. Maybe the house settling." Carter stepped into the hallway, listening. He heard it. A faint scrape. Downstairs. "Stay here," he said quietly. "Carter, stay here." He moved down the hallway, down the stairs, silent as a shadow. The sound was coming from the kitchen. He reached for a weapon he no longer carried. Settled for a heavy bookend from a side table. He rounded the corner. Ariana stood at the counter, making tea. She looked up, unsurprised. "Can't sleep either?" Carter lowered the bookend. "You scared her. The house makes noise. Old pipes. It happens." "Does it happen every night?" "Often enough." Carter set the bookend down. "I'll do a perimeter check anyway." He spent the next hour walking every room, testing every window, checking every lock. Everything was secure. But secure didn't mean safe. It just meant they hadn't found a way in yet. When he returned upstairs, Vanessa was still awake, sitting on the floor outside her office. "Everything okay?" she asked. For now. She looked up at him. I'm sorry, I woke you. You didn't. I wasn't sleeping. Do you ever sleep? Not really. Not since... He stopped. She waited. Not since I came home and found out some things can't be fixed with bullets. Vanessa stood slowly. Your wife. Carter nodded. How did you know? Grayson's background check was thorough. I'm sorry. Don't be. It was a long time ago. Doesn't make it hurt less. They stood in the dim hallway. Two people who'd built walls so high they'd forgotten what it was like to let someone see over them. This is going to be strange, Vanessa said softly. Yes. But maybe it doesn't have to be terrible. Carter almost smiled. Almost. Let's just try to keep you alive first. We'll worry about terrible later. She laughed quietly. Deal. She went back into her office. Closed the door. Carter returned to his small room, lay back down, and listened to the house breathe around him. Somewhere in the garden, the peacock screamed. Carter closed his eyes. Strange didn't even begin to cover it. The charity luncheon at the Silver Lake Country Club was the kind of event where everyone smiled and no one meant it. Women in pastel dresses and men in blazers, the color of money, gathered under white tents to raise funds for causes they'd forget about by dessert. Vanessa moved through the crowd with practiced ease, shaking hands, laughing at jokes that weren't funny, playing the part she'd perfected over a decade of corporate warfare. Carter followed 3 steps behind, wearing a suit that Vanessa's tailor had somehow produced overnight. It fit perfectly, which bothered him more than it should have. He wasn't here to look good, he was here to watch. And what he saw concerned him. Too many blind spots, too many access points, too many people who could be anyone. His eyes swept the perimeter constantly. Catering staff, photographers, valets. Anyone could be a threat. Everyone was a potential problem. You're making people nervous, Vanessa murmured without turning around. Good. Nervous people pay attention. You look like you're about to tackle someone. I might be. She sighed. Try to relax. This is supposed to look natural. There's nothing natural about any of this. They reached their assigned table. Vanessa made introductions. Carter immediately forgot. Names didn't matter. Positions at the table mattered. Exit routes mattered. The man sitting directly across from Vanessa mattered because he was staring at her with the kind of intensity that had nothing to do with admiration and everything to do with possession. Vanessa, the man said, standing. He was tall, silver-haired, expensive in a way that didn't need logos. It's been too long. Bennett, Vanessa replied, her voice cool. I didn't know you'd be here. I'm on the board. Of course I'd be here. Bennett Steele. Carter recognized the name from the background files Grayson had provided. Former CFO of Arcadia Industries. Former romantic interest of Vanessa's. Former, but clearly not finished. Bennett's eyes slid to Carter. And who's this? This is Carter Rhodes, Vanessa said smoothly. My husband. The word landed like a grenade. Bennett's smile didn't falter, but something behind his eyes went cold. Husband. How unexpected. I don't recall seeing an announcement. It was private. We prefer to keep our personal life quiet. Clearly. Bennett extended a hand to Carter. Carter shook it, measuring the grip. Too firm. Compensating. Congratulations, Bennett said. You're a lucky man. I know, Carter replied flatly. What is it you do, Carter? I keep Vanessa safe. Bennett's smile sharpened. From what? Everything. The table went quiet. Vanessa placed a hand on Carter's arm. A gesture that looked affectionate, but was actually a warning. Carter takes his responsibilities very seriously. I can see that. Bennett sat back down, but his eyes never left Carter. Well, I hope you know what you've gotten yourself into. Vanessa's world can be quite dangerous for those not prepared. I've seen worse, Carter said. Have you? Yes. The tension was thick enough to cut. A server appeared with the first course, breaking the moment. Conversation resumed around the table, But Carter tuned it out. He was focused on Bennett, who was now speaking quietly into his phone, his expression unreadable. After lunch, Vanessa excused herself to the restroom. Carter followed her across the lawn, staying close. Bennett intercepted them near the clubhouse entrance. "Vanessa, a word?" She stopped. "I'm in a hurry, Bennett. It will only take a moment." Carter positioned himself slightly between them. Bennett noticed. "Does your guard dog always hover like this?" "He's my husband, not my guard dog." "Is he? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've hired yourself a bodyguard and dressed him up in a wedding ring." Vanessa's expression didn't change. "What do you want, Bennett?" He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "I want to know who you think you're fooling. This marriage is a sham. Everyone knows it." "Everyone? Or just you?" "I know you, Vanessa. I know you don't do anything without a reason." "So what's the reason? What are you running from?" "I'm not running from anything." "Then why the sudden husband? Why now? Unless—" His eyes widened slightly. "The attempt on your life. You're scared." Carter's hand moved to Vanessa's elbow, gentle but firm. "We're done here." Bennett ignored him, still focused on Vanessa. "You should have come to me. I could have protected you. Instead, you bring in this stranger, this nobody." "Careful," Carter said quietly. Bennett finally looked at him. "Or what? Or I'll forget I'm supposed to be polite." "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise." For a moment, the two men stood facing each other, the air between them crackling. Then Bennett smiled, but it was the smile of a predator that had just decided to wait. "Enjoy your honeymoon phase," he said to Vanessa. "It won't last." He walked away. Vanessa exhaled slowly. That went well. He knows. Of course he knows. Bennett's not stupid. He's also not done. Carter watched Bennett disappear into the clubhouse. "He's going to be a problem. He's always been a problem. I can handle him." "Can you?" She turned to him, irritated. "Yes, Carter. I've been handling Bennett Steele since before you showed up. He's bitter because I chose the company over him 3 years ago. He'll posture and make noise, but he won't actually do anything." "You sure about that?" "Yes." Carter wasn't. That night, after Summer was asleep and Vanessa had retreated to her office to work, Carter sat in his small room reviewing security footage from the country club. Grayson had sent it over encrypted email. He watched it 3 times. The third time, he saw it. Bennett, standing near the service entrance, speaking with someone off camera. The angle was wrong, to see who. But the body language was clear. Money exchanging hands. Instructions being given. Bennett checked his watch, nodded, and walked away. Carter's blood went cold. He grabbed his phone, called Grayson. "I need you to pull all footage from the Silver Lake Country Club today. Focus on Bennett Steele." "What am I looking for?" "A transaction. Service entrance. Around 1:30 p.m. Give me an hour." Carter hung up, stood, and walked to Vanessa's office. He knocked once. "Come in." She was at her desk, laptop open, glasses perched on her nose. She looked up. "What's wrong?" "We need to talk about Bennett. I told you, I can handle him." "No, you can't." He showed her the footage on his phone. She watched it twice, her expression growing darker. "What is he doing?" "Hiring someone. I don't know who or for what, but I can guess." Vanessa set down her glasses. "You think he's behind the attempt on my life?" "I think he's a man who didn't like losing you, doesn't like being replaced, and has the resources to do something about it. Bennett is arrogant and entitled, but he's not a killer. Maybe not personally. But money doesn't care who spends it." She was quiet for a long time. Finally, "What do you suggest?" "I suggest we stop pretending this is just business. Someone wants you dead, and they're not going to stop because you hired a fake husband. We need to go on offense." "Meaning what?" "Meaning we find out who Bennett met with, what he paid them for, and we make sure it never happens." Vanessa looked at him. "You're talking about something illegal. I'm talking about keeping you alive. The law can catch up later." She stood, walked to the window. Below, the estate grounds stretched out in manicured perfection, beautiful and utterly exposed. "If Bennett is involved," she said slowly, "if he's really trying to have me killed, then I've misjudged everything. He was my CFO, my partner. I trusted him with access to every corner of my company, and now he's using that access against you." She turned. "How do we prove it?" "We don't. Not yet. First, we keep you alive. Then we dismantle him piece by piece, until there's nothing left but evidence." Vanessa's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, frowned. "It's Bennett. He wants to meet. Tomorrow. Private. Don't go." "I have to. If I refuse, he'll know we suspect him. Then I'm coming with you. He'll never agree to that. I don't care what he agrees to. You're not meeting him alone." They stared at each other. Finally, Vanessa nodded. "Fine, but you stay in the background. Let me handle the conversation. As long as I can handle him, if things go wrong." "Carter." "That's the deal, Vanessa. I protect you. That means all the time, not just when it's convenient." She didn't argue. The next morning, Carter watched from a table 20 feet away as Vanessa met Bennett at an outdoor cafe in the Harborside district. They spoke for 10 minutes. Carter couldn't hear the words, but he could read the body language. Bennett was agitated, aggressive. Vanessa was calm, controlled, giving nothing away. Then Bennett leaned forward, said something that made Vanessa's face go pale. She stood abruptly. Bennett grabbed her wrist. Carter was moving before conscious thought. He crossed the distance in seconds, his hand closing over Bennett's wrist with enough pressure to make the man gasp. "Let go," Carter said quietly. Bennett looked up at him, fury in his eyes. "This doesn't concern you. Everything concerning her concerns me. Let go." Bennett released Vanessa's wrist. Carter released Bennett's. "You're making a mistake," Bennett said to Vanessa. "Aligning yourself with people like him. You think he's going to save you? He's just another hired gun. Better a hired gun than a hired killer," Carter said. Bennett went very still. "What did you just say?" "You heard me. I don't know what you think you know. I know enough." Bennett stood, threw cash on the table. "This isn't over, Vanessa. Not by a long shot." He walked away, but not before Carter caught the look he gave them. It wasn't anger. It was calculation. The look of a man who just decided to accelerate his timeline. Carter turned to Vanessa. "What did he say to you?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "He said Summer's treatments are expensive. He said it would be a shame if something happened to interrupt them." Carter's vision went red for half a second. When it cleared, his voice was ice. "Pack a bag. We're moving Summer somewhere safe. Tonight." "Where?" "Somewhere Bennett Steele will never find her. And then we're ending this." The safe house was a cabin 2 hours north, buried in forest thick enough to swallow sound and secrets equally. Grayson had arranged it within 3 hours of Carter's call. No paper trail, no digital footprint, just keys and coordinates. Summer sat on a worn couch, wrapped in a blanket, confusion written across her face. "Why are we here, Dad?" "Because it's safer." "Safer than that huge house with all the security?" Carter knelt in front of her. "Sometimes the safest place isn't the biggest. It's the one nobody knows about." A woman emerged from the kitchen, older, severe-looking, with steel gray hair pulled into a tight bun. She wore practical clothes and moved with military precision. "I'm Edith Walsh," she said to Summer. "I'll be staying with you while your father works." Summer looked at Carter. "You're leaving?" "Just during the day. I'll be back every night." "Promise?" "Promise." Edith's voice softened slightly. "I make excellent pancakes. And I have a collection of old mystery novels. Do you like mysteries?" Summer nodded slowly. "Good. Then we'll get along fine." On the drive back to the city, Vanessa sat in the passenger seat, silent. Finally, she spoke. Thank you for protecting her. It's what you're paying me for. No, this is more than that. Bennett threatened her to get to me. That makes it personal. Carter's hands tightened on the wheel. Yes, it does. They arrived at Whitestone Estate near midnight. The house was dark, except for a single light in the library. Ariana met them at the door. You have a visitor, she said, her tone disapproving. Who? Vanessa asked. She said her name is Scylla Harmon. She said it's urgent. She's been waiting for 3 hours. Vanessa and Carter exchanged a glance. The name meant nothing to Carter, but Vanessa's face had gone pale. Where is she? Library. The woman in the library was ancient, a word Carter didn't use lightly. She sat in a high-backed chair like a queen on a throne, her white hair cascading over her shoulders, her dark eyes sharp despite the wrinkles that mapped her face like topography. She wore layers of black lace and held a carved wooden cane across her lap. Vanessa, the woman said, her voice surprisingly strong. It's been too long. And Scylla, Vanessa replied, her tone carefully neutral. I didn't know you were in the country. I wasn't. Then I heard someone tried to kill you, and I decided it was time to come home. Scylla's eyes moved to Carter. And you must be the mysterious husband. Carter Rhodes. Sit, both of you. We have much to discuss, and I'm too old to waste time on pleasantries. Saturday Scylla studied them for a long moment. This marriage is fake. Of course, Vanessa stiffened. And Scylla. Don't insult me with denials. I've lived long enough to know the difference between love and strategy. The question is, why? Why this particular strategy? Carter spoke. Someone wants her dead. I'm here to prevent that. How direct? I like you already. Scylla turned to Vanessa. Have you told him? Told me what? Carter asked. Vanessa looked away. And Scylla, this isn't the time. When is the time? When you're in the ground. When he can't protect you because he doesn't know what he's protecting you from. What are you talking about? Carter demanded. Scylla leaned forward. Your wife, Mr. Rhodes, is not just a CEO. She's an heiress to something far older and far more dangerous than a technology company. Aunt Scylla, please. Her great-grandfather built an empire, yes. But he built it on foundations that weren't entirely legal. Foundations involving people who don't forget debts, people who don't forgive slights. Carter looked at Vanessa. Is this true? Vanessa's voice was barely audible. My great-grandfather, Theodore Harmon, started as a bootlegger during Prohibition. He made connections with organized crime families to move product. When Prohibition ended, he went legitimate, but the connections remained. Favors were owed, debts were called in. By the time my father inherited the business, it was clean. Mostly, Carter repeated. There are still threads, Scylla said. Still, people who believe the Harmon family owes them. Still accounts that were never settled. And someone's collecting, Carter said. Scylla nodded. Bennett Steele discovered this 3 years ago. He found documents, old ledgers, records my grandfather thought were destroyed. He's been using them as leverage ever since. Vanessa's hands were shaking. I didn't want anyone to know. I've spent my entire career trying to distance myself from that legacy. Trying to build something clean. Something mine. And Bennett's been bleeding you dry quietly, Carter said. Not money, influence, access. He's been positioning himself to take over, piece by piece, using your family's past as blackmail. Vanessa nodded. When I refused to marry him, when I made it clear he'd never control Arcadia, he threatened to go public. That's when the threats on my life started. Carter stood, pacing. So Bennett's not just a jealous ex. He's a blackmailer who's decided that if he can't have your company one way, he'll take it another. By eliminating me, Vanessa said quietly. With my death, the company would go into chaos. The board would scramble for control. Bennett could position himself as the steady hand, the obvious choice to take over. And the family secrets would die with you, Scylla added. No one left it to Bennett placed. Bennett could position himself as the steady hand, contradict whatever story he decides to tell. Carter turned to them. Where are these documents? The ones Bennett found? I don't know, Vanessa admitted. He's never shown them to me directly. Just hints. References. Enough to prove he has them. Then we find them, Carter said. We find them, we destroy them, and we destroy Bennett's leverage. Scylla smiled. I knew I liked you. You think like a soldier. I am a soldier. No, Scylla corrected. You were a soldier. Now you're something more dangerous, a soldier with something to lose. She stood, leaning heavily on her cane. I have copies of everything. Theodore was my father. I know where all the bodies are buried, literally and figuratively. She moved to the bookshelf, pressed something that made a section swing open. Behind it, a safe. She dialed the combination with practiced ease and withdrew a leather portfolio. Everything Bennett has and more. Dates, names, amounts. The entire ugly history of how this family's fortune began. She handed it to Vanessa. It's time to stop running from your past. You can't outrun blood, but you can decide what you do with it. Vanessa took the portfolio with trembling hands. Why now? Why give this to me now? Because you're finally ready to fight. And because she gestured to Carter, gives you a weapon Bennett never expected. Someone who doesn't care about your money, your name, or your reputation. Someone who just cares about keeping you alive. Carter met Scylla's eyes. That's all that matters. Then use these documents wisely. Expose Bennett before he exposes you. Strike first. Strike hard. And leave nothing for him to use against you. She moved toward the door, then paused. One more thing, Mr. Rhodes. You should know that the man Bennett hired after your encounter at the cafe, he's not just any assassin. His name is Jackson Sullivan. Former intelligence operative. Ghost protocols. If he's coming for Vanessa, you need to be ready for someone who thinks exactly like you do. The door closed behind her, leaving Carter and Vanessa alone with the weight of revelations that changed everything. Vanessa opened the portfolio, her hands still shaking. Inside, decades of secrets stared back at them. I'm sorry, she whispered. Sorry for what? For dragging you into this. It's so much worse than I told you. My family. My history. It's all poison. Carter took the portfolio from her, set it aside, and made her look at him. I don't care about your family's past. I care about your future. And I care about making sure you have one. Carter. Tomorrow, we go through every page. We build a case. We find Bennett's copies and we burn them. Then we go public with our version first. We control the narrative. And if it destroys my reputation, better your reputation than your life. She closed her eyes, tears finally breaking through. I've worked so hard to be more than my name. You are more than your name. You're the woman who built an empire on her own terms. You're the woman who didn't back down when someone tried to kill her. That doesn't change because your great-grandfather was a criminal. How can you be so sure? Because I've done things I'm not proud of too. We all have ghosts. The difference is what we do with them. Do we let them haunt us, or do we put them to rest? Vanessa leaned against him, just for a moment, letting herself be vulnerable in a way she probably never had before. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For not running, for not judging, for just staying. Carter's arms came around her, careful, protective. I'm not going anywhere. They stood like that, two people carrying the weight of their own private wars, until Vanessa finally pulled away and wiped her eyes. We should get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Vanessa, Carter said as she reached the door. She turned. Whatever happens, whatever comes next, you're not alone anymore. Remember that. She nodded, unable to speak, and left. Carter stood in the library, looking at the portfolio of secrets, the evidence of a family's sins, and thought about how easy it would be to just destroy it all, burn it, pretend it never existed. But that's not how you won wars. You won by knowing your enemy better than they knew themselves. And now, thanks to Scylla Harmon, they had something Bennett didn't know they had, the truth. All of it. Tomorrow, the real battle would begin. The Arcadia Industries shareholders meeting was held in the grand auditorium of the Meridian Center, a glass cathedral of corporate ambition that seated 800 people and broadcast to thousands more online. Every seat was filled. Every camera was live. This wasn't just a quarterly update. This was theater. Vanessa stood backstage, reviewing her notes one final time. The portfolio Scylla had given them sat in a locked briefcase handcuffed to Grayson's wrist. 3 copies had been made, one with the FBI, one with a journalist at the National Examiner who'd agreed to hold the story for exactly 2 hours, and one with an attorney whose entire career was built on burning powerful people to the ground. Carter stood beside her, wearing a suit that made him look like he belonged in boardrooms instead of battlefields, but his eyes gave him away. They never stopped moving, cataloging threats, calculating angles. "You ready?" he asked quietly. "No," Vanessa admitted, "but I'm doing it anyway. That's all courage ever is." She looked at him. "If this goes wrong, if Bennett has a contingency I didn't see, then I'll handle it. That's what I'm here for." A stage manager appeared. "Miss Palmer, you're on in 2 minutes." Vanessa nodded, smoothed her jacket, and walked toward the stage entrance. Carter followed 3 steps behind, his hand resting near the concealed firearm Grayson had reluctantly approved after extensive documentation and permits. The auditorium went dark. A spotlight hit the stage. Vanessa walked out to polite applause, her heels clicking against polished wood. She took her place behind the podium, adjusted the microphone, and began. "Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. Today's meeting will be different from our usual quarterly reports. Today, we're going to talk about truth, legacy, and accountability." In the third row, Bennett Steele sat perfectly still, his expression unreadable, but his hands gripped the armrests just a little too tightly. Vanessa continued, "My great-grandfather, Theodore Harmon, built the foundation of what would eventually become Arcadia Industries. The official story is that he was a visionary entrepreneur. The real story is more complicated. He was a bootlegger during Prohibition. He made deals with organized crime. He built wealth on illegal foundations." Murmurs rippled through the audience. Cameras zoomed in. Bennett's face had gone carefully blank. "I learned about this legacy 3 years ago when documents surfaced proving these connections. Documents that someone has been using to blackmail me, to manipulate this company, and ultimately to orchestrate attempts on my life." The murmurs turned to gasps. Vanessa clicked a remote. Behind her, the screen lit up with scanned images of old ledgers, photographs of her great-grandfather with known criminals, bank records showing payments to violent enforcers. "This is my family's past. I'm not proud of it, but I'm not hiding from it anymore, because hiding from it gave power to someone who's been using it to destroy everything I've built." She clicked again. New images appeared. Modern documents, bank transfers, emails, all with Bennett Steele's name attached. For 3 years, Bennett Steele, my former CFO and former romantic partner, has held these documents over my head. He demanded influence. He demanded access. When I refused to give him control of this company, he threatened to go public. When I still refused, he escalated to violence. Bennett stood abruptly. "This is absurd. You can't prove any of this." "Can't I?" Vanessa clicked again. Footage from the Silver Lake Country Club appeared, showing Bennett exchanging money with a man whose face was now clearly visible. "This is Jackson Sullivan, a known contract operative with connections to 3 unsolved corporate assassinations. You met with him the day after I married Carter. You paid him $50,000 in cash. Would you like to explain what that was for?" The auditorium erupted. Security moved toward Bennett, who was already backing toward the exit. But Carter was faster. He stepped out from backstage, blocking the aisle. Bennett saw him and stopped. "You have no authority here." Bennett hissed. "I have enough," Carter replied. From the back of the auditorium, 2 FBI agents appeared. "Bennett Steele, we need you to come with us for questioning regarding conspiracy to commit murder and extortion." Bennett's face transformed from fury to panic in seconds. "This is a setup. She's manipulating you. Those documents are fake." "They're not," said a voice from the side entrance. Scylla Harmon walked in, leaning on her cane, looking every bit the matriarch she was. "I authenticated them personally. Every signature, every transaction. All real, all documented, and all provided to federal authorities this morning." Bennett looked at Vanessa, at Carter, at the cameras broadcasting his downfall in real time. "You'll regret this. All of you. When the truth about your family comes out, it already has," Vanessa said calmly. "I just told it. On my terms. With full transparency. That's the difference between you and me, Bennett. I'm not afraid of my past. You're terrified of your present." The FBI agents took Bennett by the arms. He didn't resist, but his eyes promised retribution even as they led him away. The auditorium was chaos. Journalists shouting questions. Shareholders demanding answers. Board members conferring in panicked clusters. Vanessa raised her hand, and slowly, impossibly, the room quieted. "I know this is shocking. I know you have questions, but I want to be clear. Arcadia Industries is not my great-grandfather's company. It's not built on his methods or his morals. It's built on innovation, on integrity, and on a commitment to doing better than the generation before us. I've spent my career proving that your past doesn't define your future. Today, I'm asking you to let me continue proving it." The silence stretched. Then, from the front row, an older woman stood, one of the founding shareholders, a woman who'd been with the company for 40 years. She began to clap, slowly at first, then louder. Others joined. Not everyone, not even most, but enough. Vanessa stepped away from the podium, her legs shaking. Adrenaline finally catching up with her. Carter met her at the stage stairs. "You did it," he said quietly. "Did I? Or did I just destroy everything? You took control. That's what matters." Backstage, Grayson was on 3 phones simultaneously, coordinating with legal, with PR, with security. He covered one receiver. FBI wants a full statement. Press wants an exclusive. The board wants an emergency session. "Tell them all I'll comply," Vanessa said. "But not today. Today, I'm going home." She walked out the back exit with Carter beside her, Grayson running interference with the journalists who'd staked out every door. The car was waiting, engine running. They climbed in. The doors closed, muffling the chaos outside. Vanessa leaned her head back, closing her eyes. "My great-grandfather would have hated this." "Your great-grandfather was a criminal," Carter said. "Yes. But he was also careful. Strategic. He never would have gambled everything on one public moment." "You're not him." She opened her eyes. "No, I'm not." They drove in silence until they were clear of downtown. Then Vanessa's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. She opened it, read it, and went very pale. "What?" Carter asked. She handed him the phone. The message was simple. "You think you've won. You haven't." Sullivan wasn't working alone. "Sleep well, Mrs. Rhodes." Carter's jaw tightened. "Change of destination. We're not going to Whitestone. Where are we going?" "Somewhere Bennett Steele doesn't know about. Somewhere whoever sent that text can't find us." He leaned forward, gave the driver new coordinates. Vanessa didn't argue, because the truth they'd just unleashed had consequences. And not all of them could be controlled with evidence and cameras. Some could only be stopped with bullets. That night, In a secure apartment Grayson maintained for exactly these situations, Carter stood watch while Vanessa finally slept. His phone buzzed. A message from Edith at the safe house. Summer, asking for you. She's okay but worried. He typed back. Tell her I'll call in the morning. Keep her inside. Trust no one. The response came immediately. Understood. Carter looked out the window at the city below. Lights spreading in every direction like a circuit board, and wondered which of those lights belonged to the person who'd sent that text. Which one belonged to the assassin who was still out there, still hunting, still patient. Tomorrow, they'd regroup. Tomorrow, they'd plan the next move. But tonight, all Carter could do was stand between Vanessa and the darkness and refuse to blink. Because the public war was over, but the private one had just begun. The warehouse fire started at 3:47 inches the morning. Carter was awake when the alarm on his phone screamed a warning he'd set up through Grayson's security network. Motion detected at Whitestone Estate. Unauthorized entry. Multiple points of breach. He was moving before conscious thought, grabbing his weapon, shaking Vanessa awake. Get dressed, now. We're moving. She bolted upright, instantly alert. What happened? Someone hit the estate. If they're smart enough to find it, they're smart enough to find this place. We have 60 seconds. They were out the door in 45. No time to pack, no time to think, just move. The car Grayson had left them was armored, a black sedan with bulletproof glass, and an engine that could outrun most problems. Carter drove. Vanessa pulled up security feeds on her phone, watching in real time as masked figures moved through her home. They're not stealing anything, she said, voice tight. They're planting something. Carter glanced at the screen. She was right. The figures were placing small devices throughout the house. Explosives or surveillance. Does it matter? Yes. His phone rang. Grayson, talk to me. Carter answered. Sullivan's not working alone. We identified 2 other operatives from traffic cam footage near the estate. Former military, both of them. Demolitions, experts. Carter, they're not there to watch. They're there to send a message. How long until detonation? If they're smart, they'll wait until you return. If they're impatient, could be any time. Carter's mind raced. Where's the nearest safe location? FBI field office is 12 minutes south. I can have agents meet you. No, too exposed. They'll be watching federal buildings. Then where? Carter made a decision. The cabin. Where Summer is. If they know about Whitestone, they might know about there too. We consolidate, we protect what matters, and we make them come to us on ground we choose. That's suicide. That's strategy. Set it up. He hung up. Vanessa stared at him. You want to use my daughter as bait? I want to protect her and you in the same location with sightlines I control and exits I've already mapped. That's not bait. That's fortress. And if you're wrong, then I'll die making sure you don't. The words hung between them, stark and honest. Vanessa looked away. I never wanted this. I know. I never wanted Summer in danger because of me. She's not in danger because of you. She's in danger because evil men make evil choices. You didn't make them. They did. They drove north. The city, falling away behind them, replaced by forest and darkness. The cabin appeared like a memory, lights on in the windows, smoke curling from the chimney. Edith met them at the door, rifle in hand. I saw you coming. Summer's asleep upstairs. Keep her there, Carter said. We're about to have company. How many? 3, maybe more. Edith nodded once. I'll take the upstairs windows. You take ground level. You've done this before, Carter observed. 20 years with the State Department's Diplomatic Security Service. I'm retired, not dead. Carter almost smiled. He turned to Vanessa. Basement. There's a safe room Grayson had installed. Reinforced walls, separate ventilation, satellite phone. You go there, you lock the door, and you don't come out until I come get you. Absolutely not. Vanessa. No. This is my fight. These are my enemies. I'm not hiding while you risk your life. You're the target. That makes you the liability. I'm also the only other person here who knows how to shoot, she said, pulling a compact handgun from her purse. Grandfather Theodore insisted. Just because he was a criminal doesn't mean he was stupid about safety. Carter looked at the weapon, then at her. You know how to use that. I hit what I aim at. Fine, you take the west windows. Don't shoot unless you have a clear target and I'm not in the line of fire. If things go wrong, you run for the safe room. No heroics. Agreed? Agreed. They took their positions. Edith upstairs with a hunting rifle and night vision scope. Carter at the front entrance with his service weapon and a backup he'd retrieved from a hidden compartment in the car. Vanessa at the west window. Heart hammering. Hands surprisingly steady. The waiting was the worst part. Carter knew it would be. Waiting was when the mind invented horrors worse than reality. When doubt crept in. When the body betrayed you, with trembling and sweat. But his training held. Breathing slow. Pulse controlled. Eyes on the tree line. Movement. Subtle. A shadow that didn't match the wind patterns. Carter raised his weapon. Contact. Northeast. 50 meters. Edith's voice crackled through the radio. Confirmed. I count 3. Staggered approach. Wait for my signal. The figures moved closer, professionals who knew how to use darkness and terrain. But Carter had been the one hunting humans in worse conditions than this. He knew the rhythm. The patterns. The moment when confidence became carelessness. The first figure reached the porch stairs. Carter fired twice. Center mass. The figure dropped. The other 2 scattered, returning fire. Glass shattered. Wood splintered. Vanessa ducked, aimed, fired at a muzzle flash. She heard a grunt. Hit or miss, she couldn't tell. Edith's rifle cracked from above. Another figure went down. That left one. The smart one. The patient one. Silence fell. Broken. Only by the crackle of the fire inside and the hammer of their own heartbeats. Carter moved to the window, scanning. Nothing. Then his training screamed, a warning he felt rather than heard. He turned, just as the back door exploded inward. The third figure rushed through, weapon raised. Carter fired. So did the intruder. Both rounds found their marks. Carter felt the impact in his shoulder, a white-hot spike of pain that spun him sideways. His return shot caught the intruder in the throat. The man dropped, choking, dying. Carter! Vanessa was at his side instantly. His shoulder was bleeding heavily. The bullet having punched through muscle and possibly bone. He pressed a hand to the wound. Teeth gritted. I'm fine. You're shot. I've been shot before. Check him. See if he's got ID or a phone. Vanessa moved to the fallen intruder, searching his pockets while Edith covered from the stairs. She found a phone, locked, and a wallet with no identification. But tucked inside the wallet was a small card. Just a number. A phone number. What is this? She asked. Call it, Carter said through the pain. She dialed. It rang once. A voice answered. Male. Cultured. Familiar. I assume if this phone is calling me, Sullivan and his team are dead. Vanessa's blood turned to ice. Bennett. Hello, Vanessa. Surprised? You're in federal custody. I'm out on bail, pending trial. Amazing what a good attorney and a 7-figure retainer can accomplish. Did you really think a press conference and some old documents would stop me? Where are you? Somewhere you'll never find me. Somewhere I can watch you unravel from a safe distance. Carter grabbed the phone from Vanessa, his good hand steady despite the blood loss. Listen carefully, Bennett. You failed. Your men are dead. Your leverage is gone. And the only thing keeping me from hunting you down right now is the woman who asked me not to kill you on principle. But if you come at her again, if you threaten her or anyone she cares about, I will forget that promise. Do you understand me? Bennett's laugh was cold. Big words from a man bleeding out in a cabin. How long do you think you can protect her, Rhodes? How long until you miss something? Until you're too slow. I have patience. I have resources. And I have nothing left to lose. Then we're even. Carter said, because I've already lost everything once. Losing it again doesn't scare me. But you're terrified. I can hear it. Enjoy looking over your shoulder for the rest of your life, however long that is. He hung up. Vanessa was already tearing cloth for a bandage. Edith appeared with a first aid kit. Bullet went through. That's good. No fragments. Bad news is you're going to need stitches and antibiotics. Later, Carter said. First, we secure the perimeter. You can barely stand, Vanessa protested. I can stand fine. Help me up. She did. And together, they checked the bodies. All three were dead. All three carried no identification beyond the burner, phone, professional ghosts, disposable assets, exactly what Bennett would hire. Dawn broke slowly, painting the forest in shades of gold and red. Summer woke to find her father sitting at the kitchen table, arm in a sling, face pale but smiling. Dad. What happened? Had some trouble last night. Everything's okay now. She ran to him, careful of his injured side. You're hurt. I've been hurt before. I'll heal. Summer looked at Vanessa, who stood by the window, exhausted, still holding the gun like she'd forgotten she had it. Did you help him? Summer asked. I tried, Vanessa said quietly. She did more than try, Carter corrected. She saved my life. Summer looked between them, her 10-year-old mind processing what the adults weren't saying. You're not pretending anymore, are you? Vanessa blinked. What? You and Dad. At first, I thought it was just for the job. But it's not anymore, is it? Carter and Vanessa looked at each other. The exhaustion, the blood, the shared terror of almost dying and somehow surviving. All of it written on their faces. No, Vanessa said softly. It's not pretending anymore. Carter stood slowly, crossed to her, and took the gun gently from her hands. He set it aside, then pulled her close with his good arm. She collapsed against him, finally allowing herself to break. I almost got you killed, she whispered. You didn't. We're alive. That's what matters. For how long? Bennett's still out there. Sullivan might have partners we don't know about. When does it end? It ends, Carter said. When we end it. Permanently. She pulled back, looking at him. What are you saying? I'm saying no more defense. No more reacting. We take the fight to them. We find Bennett. We find whoever else is involved. And we finish this so thoroughly that no one ever thinks about coming after you again. That's not justice. That's revenge. Sometimes, Carter said quietly, they're the same thing. The trap was set at the place where it all began. The Astoria Grand Ballroom. The same venue where 3 hitmen had tried to kill Vanessa and Carter had stopped them with nothing but a wine bottle and reflexes. Now, 6 weeks later, it would host the Charity Gala's memorial event, honoring those who'd shown bravery in the face of violence. Carter knew Bennett would come. Men like Bennett couldn't resist the theater of it. The chance to walk free among the people who thought he was finished, to prove he was untouchable. And if he didn't come, if he stayed hidden, then the recordings of tonight would flush him out anyway. Either way, the trap would spring. Are you sure about this? Vanessa asked, adjusting Carter's bow tie in the green room backstage. His shoulder had healed well, leaving only a scar and occasional stiffness. No, he admitted. But I'm sure about ending this. She nodded. Her own gown. A deep burgundy that looked like spilled wine or blood, depending on the light. The FBI is positioned. 12 agents, 3 in the crowd, 2 on each exit, 3 on the roof, 2 mobile. Grayson's coordinating. If Bennett shows, we'll have him surrounded before he knows what's happening. And if he doesn't show, then we go to Plan B. Which is? Carter's smile was cold. You don't want to know. The ballroom filled slowly with the same crowd that had been here 2 months ago. Politicians, executives, society figures. All of them, pretending the assassination attempt was a thrilling story instead of a trauma. All of them dressed in their finest armor of silk and diamonds. Vanessa took the stage at 8 o'clock sharp. The speech she gave was perfect, gracious, humble, thanking the first responders, the security team, and most especially, the brave caterer, who'd risked everything to save her life. Carter stood in the wings, watching her perform, marveling at how she could make strength look like vulnerability and control look like gratitude. Then, during the champagne service, Grayson's voice crackled in Carter's earpiece. He's here. Southwest entrance. Just walked in like he owns the place. Carter's pulse didn't spike. It steadied. Don't approach yet. Let him get comfortable. Copy that. Bennett Steele moved through the crowd like a shark through water, smiling, shaking hands, accepting congratulations on his bail as if it proved innocence instead of wealth. He wore a white dinner jacket that probably cost more than most people's cars and carried himself with the confidence of someone who believed he'd already won. Carter watched him from across the room, calculating. Bennett spotted Vanessa, and his trajectory shifted. He moved toward her deliberately, parting the crowd with presence alone. Carter intercepted him halfway. Rhodes, Bennett said, not bothering to hide his disdain. Still playing bodyguard. Still keeping her alive, which is more than you can say about your hired help. Bennett's smile tightened. I have no idea what you're referring to. I've been fully cooperative with authorities. All charges are being dropped due to insufficient evidence. Evidence can be insufficient and still be true. Can it? How philosophical. Bennett tried to step around Carter. Carter moved to block him. You're not going near her. I have every right to be here. This is a public event, and I have every right to stand between you and the woman you tried to kill. Bennett lowered his voice. You think you've won because you survived one ambush? Because you killed 3 expendable contractors? I have resources you can't imagine. I have connections that go deeper than you can dig. This doesn't end until I say it does. You're right about one thing, Carter said. It doesn't end until one of us says it does. I'm saying it now. He raised his voice, projecting across the ballroom. Everyone needs to hear something. The crowd turned, conversations dying. This man, Bennett Steele, orchestrated the assassination attempt at this very venue 2 months ago. He hired the contractors. He paid for the weapons. And when that failed, he tried again. Bennett's face flushed. That's slander. It's fact. And I have proof. Carter nodded to Grayson, who pulled out a tablet and connected it to the ballroom's display screens. Footage began to play. Security cameras showing Bennett meeting with Sullivan. Audio recordings of phone calls discussing payment and targets. Bank records tracing funds from Bennett's offshore accounts to known criminal organizations. The crowd gasped. Bennett looked around, realizing the trap too late. This is fabricated, manipulated. It's authenticated, said a new voice. FBI Special Agent Nolan Curtis stepped into the ballroom, badge displayed. We've been building a case for 6 weeks. Parallel construction, independent verification. Mr. Steele, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, and racketeering. Bennett backed away. You can't do this. I have attorneys. I have rights. You have the right to remain silent, Curtis said, approaching with 2 other agents. I suggest you use it. Bennett's eyes swept the room, looking for allies, for exits, for anything. They landed on Vanessa. You think you've won. You think exposing me changes anything. Your family's legacy is still poison. You'll never escape it. Vanessa stepped forward, her voice carrying. You're right. I can't escape my family's past. But I can choose what I do with it. I can choose to build something better. Something that doesn't rely on fear or violence or men like you. Noble words. Let's see how noble you feel when the next threat comes. When the next person decides you're worth more dead than alive. Then I'll face them, Vanessa said. Just like I faced you. And I'll keep facing them until people like you understand that I don't break. The FBI agents took Bennett by the arms. He didn't resist physically, but his voice carried venom. This isn't over. Yes, Carter said quietly, stepping close enough that only Bennett could hear. It is, because after tonight, you're going somewhere they don't take bail. Somewhere your money and connections mean nothing. And every morning, when you wake up in a cell, you'll remember that you lost to a caterer and a woman you underestimated. Enjoy the rest of your life. However long the people you betrayed let you keep it. Bennett's face went pale as the implications sank in. Criminal organizations didn't appreciate operatives who got caught and might talk. His life expectancy had just dropped significantly, and everyone in the room who understood that world knew it. The agents led him away. The ballroom erupted in chaos. Vanessa stood at the center of it, composed, victorious, and utterly exhausted. Carter moved to her side. You okay? Ask me tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be dealing with press and lawyers, and probably a dozen more complications. Then ask me next week. Next week, we'll be dealing with the Citizen ADS. Why? 11111. Fallout from your families. History going public. She turned to him. Then when do I get to just breathe? Tonight, he said. After this is done. After everyone leaves. Tonight, you breathe. She smiled, tired but genuine. I'll hold you to that. The FBI spent 2 hours taking statements. The press spent another hour shouting questions. The guests slowly filtered out, some shocked, some thrilled to have witnessed drama, some already calculating how to use the information to their advantage. By midnight, the ballroom was empty except for staff cleaning up and Grayson coordinating final security sweeps. Carter found Vanessa sitting alone in the green room, shoes off, head back against the wall. Ready to go home? He asked. Which home? The estate still being repaired from the break-in. The apartment's compromised. The cabin's a crime scene. I was thinking somewhere new. Somewhere that's actually ours, not borrowed or temporary or strategic. She opened her eyes. Ours? You, me, and Summer. A real home. Not an estate or a safe house. Just a place where we can be normal people doing normal things. We're not normal people, Carter. No. But we could pretend for a while. She stood, walked to him, and took his hands. 6 months ago, if someone had told me I'd be standing here with a former Marine sniper who I hired to fake marry me, and that I'd actually want to make it real, I would have had them evaluated for delusion. And now? Now I can't imagine my life without you in it, or Summer, or even Edith and her terrible pancakes. Carter laughed. They're not that bad. They're hockey pucks with syrup. They stood close. The exhaustion and relief and love all tangled together in a way that felt more real than any contract or arrangement ever could. So what happens now? Vanessa asked. Now we go get Summer from the safe house, we find a place with a yard and terrible plumbing that we can fix together, and we live. Just live. Just live. No assassins. No conspiracies. No billion-dollar companies. Or criminal legacies. Just us being imperfect and happy. That sounds impossible. Most good things do. She kissed him then, soft and slow and full of promise. When they pulled apart, she smiled. One condition. What's that? We keep the peacock. Carter groaned. Seriously? It's grown on me. Plus, Summer named it. We can't abandon Mr. Fancy now. We're going to be the weird family with the peacock in the suburbs. We're already the weird family. Might as well commit. They walked out of the Astoria Grand Ballroom hand in hand, leaving behind the ghosts of assassination attempts and family secrets and fake marriages. Behind them, Grayson locked up, made final calls, and allowed himself a small smile. He'd worked a lot of protection details in his career. Most ended with relief. This one ended with hope. That was rare. That was worth protecting. In a federal holding cell downtown, Bennett Steele sat alone, his white dinner jacket now wrinkled, his confidence now ash. He'd gambled everything on destroying Vanessa Palmer, and lost it all to a man he'd dismissed as invisible. The irony would have been amusing if it wasn't so absolute. And somewhere in the city, in a small apartment with squeaky floors and neighbors who played music too loud, Carter Rhodes woke up his daughter and told her they were going home. "Where's home?" Summer asked sleepily. "Wherever we are," Carter said. "Together." Summer smiled, grabbed her backpack with her harmonica inside, and followed her father into the night. Into a future that was uncertain, but theirs. Into a life where the only thing that mattered was that they chose it. The story that began with bullets and champagne ended with keys to a townhouse and a peacock named Mr. Fancy. Not perfect, not polished, but real. And that was enough. 18 months later, the smell of fresh coffee and burnt toast filled the small kitchen of the townhouse on Ashford Lane. Carter stood at the stove, attempting pancakes with the determination of a man who'd faced down armed assassins but remained thoroughly defeated by breakfast foods. Summer sat at the table, doing homework and trying not to laugh at the smoking griddle. "Dad, I think they're ready. They're not golden yet. They're charcoal." Carter flipped one, revealed a pancake that looked like it had survived a house fire, and sighed. "I'll order bagels." Vanessa entered wearing yoga pants and one of Carter's old Marine Corps shirts, her hair pulled into a messy bun, no makeup, looking nothing like the polished CEO who still ran Arcadia Industries but now did it with boundaries, with balance, with a life outside the boardroom. "Still can't make pancakes?" she asked, kissing his cheek. "Still defending my honor by pretending these are edible?" "Always." Summer closed her textbook. "Mom makes better pancakes anyway." The word hung in the air like music. Mom. Vanessa had been mom for 6 months now, ever since the quiet ceremony at the courthouse where they'd made their arrangement legal and real. No press, no gala, just them, Summer, Grayson, Edith, Scylla, and a judge who'd married 10,000 couples and said theirs was the first one she actually believed in. "How are you feeling?" Carter asked, his hand moving instinctively to Vanessa's still flat stomach. "Nauseous, tired, absurdly happy. All normal then, completely abnormal. And I love it." They'd found out 3 weeks ago. A daughter, the doctor said. Due in 6 months. Summer had cried with joy, immediately started planning nursery colors, and announced she was going to teach her little sister everything important, which apparently included harmonica and how to spot a liar from across a room. After breakfast, which ended up being bagels as predicted, Carter drove Summer to school, then headed to his new location. Not a townhouse, not an estate. A small storefront on Hemlock Street, tucked between a bookshop and a coffee roaster, with a hand-painted sign above the door that read, "Rhodes Security Consulting, Threat Assessment, and Personal Protection." It wasn't flashy. The office had 3 desks, a wall of monitors, and a coffee maker that worked too well, but it was his, built on the reputation he'd earned saving Vanessa and the skills he'd honed over 2 decades. Now he taught executives how to spot danger, trained security teams on real-world response, and consulted for corporations that wanted protection without the corporate security theater. His partner sat at the middle desk, reviewing case files. Grayson had retired from Vanessa's personal detail after the Bennett situation resolved and joined Carter 6 months ago. Turns out, a former FBI agent and a former Marine sniper made an effective team. "Morning," Grayson said without looking up. "We have a new client inquiry. Tech startup CEO, getting threats on social media. Wants to know if they're credible." "Are they?" "Hard to say. Some are standard internet trolling. A few have specific details that concern me. Home address, family member names." Carter sat down, pulled up the file. "Schedule a consultation. I'll assess personally." This was the work now. Not stopping bullets, though he could when necessary, preventing the situations where bullets became necessary in the first place, teaching people how to see the world the way he did, where threats announced themselves in subtle patterns if you knew how to look. The door chimed. A woman entered, mid-40 seconds. Nervous energy. Expensive clothes that tried to hide fear but failed. "I'm looking for Carter Rhodes." "That's me. How can I help you?" She sat down carefully, like she might break. "My name is Kiana Ford. I'm a district attorney. I've been prosecuting organized crime cases for 15 years. Last week, I got a letter with pictures of my son at his soccer practice. No words, just pictures. And a bullet." Carter's expression didn't change, but his focus sharpened. "Did you report it to police?" "Of course. They're investigating. But I need more than investigation. I need protection. I need someone who understands what it means when criminals want to send a message." "I do. I know. That's why I'm here." They spent an hour going over her situation. Carter mapped her daily routine, identified vulnerabilities, and outlined a security protocol that would keep her and her family safe without making them prisoners. By the time she left, some of the fear had lifted from her shoulders. Not all of it. Fear was useful, but now it was manageable. "You're good at this," Grayson observed, after she'd gone. "At what?" "Making people feel like they're not alone." Carter shrugged. "That's all anyone needs sometimes. To know someone's watching their back." At noon, he drove across town to have lunch with Vanessa. She'd moved Arcadia's headquarters to a smaller, more efficient building after the publicity from the Bennett trial subsided. No more 60-second floor isolation. Now her office had windows that opened and a door that people knocked on instead of scheduling appointments through 3 assistants. They ate sandwiches in the rooftop garden she'd had installed, surrounded by vegetables and herbs that interns maintained as part of a community agriculture program. "How's the Ford case?" Vanessa asked. She always asked. Not because she needed to know the details, but because she understood that Carter needed to talk about the work, to process the weight of other people's fear. "Solid threat. We'll get her protected." "Good." She bit into her sandwich, then made a face. "I can't eat turkey anymore. The smell makes me want to die." "That's new. Everything is new. Yesterday I cried because a commercial showed a dog getting adopted. A commercial, Carter, with actors and a script." He smiled. "You're growing a human. You're allowed to cry at commercials. I run a multi-billion-dollar company. I've fired executives and negotiated hostile takeovers. I shouldn't cry at dog commercials. You're doing both. That's the point." She leaned against him, and they sat in comfortable silence, watching the city move below them. A different view than the one from her old office. Closer to the ground, more connected. "Do you ever miss it?" she asked quietly. "Miss what?" "The action. The adrenaline. The life or death stakes." Carter thought about it honestly. "Sometimes, when I'm doing paperwork, or sitting in traffic. Then I come home, and Summer shows me a drawing she made. Or you tell me about your day. Or I feel the baby kick. And I remember that this is the mission now. This is what I'm protecting. Not just you. Not just them. This life we built from something that started as a contract. Best contract I ever signed. You didn't sign it. You handcuffed it to Grayson's wrist." She laughed. Details. That evening, they picked up Summer from her after-school art program. Her blood disorder was in remission. Had been for 14 months. Ever since the experimental treatment Vanessa's connections and money had made possible. The doctors were cautiously optimistic. Summer was boldly confident. She'd beaten it once and would beat it again if she had to. Because she had things to do and a little sister to meet. At home, Summer spread her art project across the kitchen table. A painting of their family. 4 figures. Carter tall and protective, Vanessa strong and smiling. Summer in the middle holding a harmonica. And a tiny baby wrapped in yellow. Behind them, a house. In the yard, a ridiculous peacock. "Mr. Fancy made it into the portrait," Vanessa noted. "He's family," Summer said seriously. Weird family, but family. Speaking of family, Carter said, Aunt Scylla called. She's coming for dinner next week. Summer brightened. Is she going to tell more stories about great-grandpa Theodore? Probably, and probably ones we shouldn't repeat. After Summer went to bed, Carter found Vanessa in the nursery they were slowly putting together. She stood in the center of the empty room, one hand on her stomach, looking at paint swatches like they held the secrets of the universe. What if I'm terrible at this? She asked quietly. At picking paint colors. At being a mother to a baby. Summer was 10 when I came into her life. She could talk, express needs, tell me when I was screwing up. A baby, they just cry and hope you figure it out. Carter came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. You'll be amazing. You already are. How do you know? Because I've seen you face assassination attempts, and corporate sabotage and family scandals, and you didn't break. A baby is terrifying, but you're more terrifying. In the best way. She turned in his arms. You really think so? I know so. They stood there, in a room that would soon hold a crib and midnight feedings, and the soft chaos of new life, and felt something neither of them had expected when they started this strange journey. Peace. Not the absence of conflict, but the presence of purpose. Not the end of fear, but the courage to face it together. Later, as they lay in bed, Vanessa's head on Carter's chest, his hand tracing absent patterns on her arm, she spoke into the darkness. Do you think Summer understands how much her life changed because of all this? She's smart. She knows. But does she know it was worth it? The danger, the fear, the upheaval. Carter was quiet for a moment. Last week, she told her teacher that her family is weird but perfect. That her dad used to save people with bullets, and now he saves them with planning. That her mom runs a huge company but still makes time for art projects. That they found each other in the strangest way possible and decided to keep finding each other every day. Vanessa felt tears building. She said all that. According to the teacher, it was very matter-of-fact, like she was describing the weather. That kid is going to rule the world someday. Probably. And we'll be there to make sure she does it with kindness. In the darkness, surrounded by the ordinary sounds of a townhouse settling and neighbors living their lives and a city that kept turning, two people who'd started as a desperate CEO and a reluctant protector breathed in sync. The threat wasn't gone. It never truly was. Bennett Steele was serving 15 years in federal prison. But the world still held danger, still harbored people who saw power as something to be taken rather than earned. But Carter and Vanessa had learned something more important than how to fight threats. They'd learned how to build something worth protecting. A marriage that started as strategy and became sanctuary. A family that formed from necessity and became choice. A life that looked nothing like either of them had planned, and everything like what they needed. 3 blocks away, in a small apartment above a diner, Kiana Ford tucked her son into bed and checked the locks Carter's team had installed. For the first time in weeks, she slept through the night. Across town, a young entrepreneur reviewed the threat assessment Carter had provided and made changes to her security protocol that would save her from a stalker she didn't know was escalating. In offices and homes and quiet moments throughout the city, people Carter had helped move through their lives a little safer, a little more aware, a little more protected. Not because he was a hero in the traditional sense, but because he'd learned that heroism wasn't about grand gestures. It was about showing up, about seeing danger before it arrived, about standing between the darkness and the people who deserve to live in light. And in a townhouse on Ashford Lane, as the first snow of the season began to fall, Carter Rhodes held his wife and thought about the daughter sleeping down the hall, and the daughter growing in the space between heartbeats, and knew with absolute certainty that this, all of this, was exactly where he was meant to be. Not invisible anymore, not running from his past, just living his present, one ordinary, extraordinary day at a time. The peacock screamed from the backyard, probably outraged by the snow. Summer would want to build it a shelter in the morning. Vanessa would pretend to object but help anyway, and Carter would watch over all of it, keeping his family safe, not with bullets or tactics, but with presence, with love, with the quiet strength of a man who'd finally found his mission. The hitmen had come for a CEO at a fundraiser, and a caterer had stopped them. But the real story wasn't about violence prevented. It was about what came after. About two broken people finding wholeness in each other. About a girl who got her health back, and a family who got their future. About love that started as a lie and became the truest thing either of them had ever known. And somewhere in the falling snow, in the spaces between what was planned and what became possible, the universe whispered that sometimes the best stories are the ones where the hero doesn't ride off into the sunset. Sometimes the hero stays, builds a life, makes pancakes badly and loves fiercely, and protects not with weapons but with unwavering presence. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that's everything. 5 years later, the backyard of the house on Ashford Lane had transformed into controlled chaos. Balloons in shades of purple and silver bobbed against a cloudless sky. A banner stretched between two oak trees read, "Happy 15th Birthday Summer," in letters that sparkled when the sun hit them right. Carter stood at the grill, flipping burgers with the confidence of a man who'd finally mastered at least one form of cooking. Beside him, Grayson nursed a beer and provided commentary that was either helpful or sarcastic, depending on interpretation. "You're burning the Bay Ghost commentary. Edges," Grayson observed. "That's called caramelization. That's called carbonization. Nobody asked you." Across the lawn, Vanessa sat at a picnic table with Scylla, who at 94 still attended every family gathering with the energy of someone half her age and twice as opinionated. Between them, 4-year-old Lily Rhodes was explaining, with intense seriousness, why peacocks should be allowed to vote. "Mr. Fancy is very smart," Lily insisted. "He knows when it's going to rain." "A valuable skill in any electorate," Scylla agreed solemnly. Summer emerged from the house carrying a cake that Edith had spent 2 days perfecting. Chocolate layers with raspberry filling, exactly what Summer had requested. She'd grown tall, her once fragile frame now strong and healthy. The blood disorder was officially in permanent remission. She'd been clear for 4 years. She set the cake down carefully, then noticed her father watching her. "What?" "Nothing. Just remembering when you were small enough that I could carry you with one arm." "I'm 15, Dad. You're not allowed to get sentimental at my birthday." "I'm your father. Getting sentimental is in my contract." "What contract?" Lily asked, materializing beside them with frosting already somehow on her face despite the cake being untouched. Summer crouched down to her little sister's level. "The dad contract. It says he has to be embarrassing and protective and make terrible pancakes forever." "Forever is a long time," Lily said seriously. "Yes, it is," Carter agreed, scooping her up. "And I plan to be terrible at pancakes for every single day of it." The guests began arriving. Friends from Summer's high school, a few teachers, some kids from Lily's preschool with their parents. Kiana Ford came with her son, now a teenager himself, both of them thriving under the protection protocols that had become second nature. Other clients, Carter and Grayson, had helped over the years, people who'd become friends, who'd found safety, and then found community. Ariana arrived carrying a gift wrapped with precision that could only be described as architectural. "No shoes on the lawn," she announced to no one in particular, then smiled despite herself when Lily hugged her legs. As the sun began its descent, painting everything gold and amber, Carter found Vanessa standing apart from the crowd, watching it all with an expression he'd learned to recognize over the years. The look that said she was cataloging this moment, storing it somewhere safe where fear and memory couldn't touch it. He wrapped his arms around her from behind. "You okay?" "Better than okay. I'm happy." "Good happy or scary happy?" "Both." "Is it always both? For people like us?" "Yeah, probably." She turned in his arms, looked up at him. 5 years ago, I was eating alone in a ballroom, surrounded by people and completely isolated. Now I'm standing in our backyard watching our daughters eat cake and our friends laugh and our life just exist. How did we get here? One day at a time. One choice at a time. One moment of not giving up. From the porch, Summer called out, "Dad, Mom, come on, we're doing the thing." The thing was a tradition that had started on Lily's first birthday and continued ever since. Everyone gathered, and each person said what they were grateful for. Simple, honest, no performance, just truth. When it came to Carter's turn, he looked around at the faces illuminated by string lights and birthday candles. At Scylla, who'd given them the truth when they needed it most. At Grayson and Edith, who'd protected what mattered. At the friends who'd started as clients and become family. At Lily, who knew nothing of danger and everything of joy. At Summer, alive and thriving, and proof that sometimes the impossible just takes longer. And at Vanessa, who'd hired him to pretend and stayed to make it real. "I'm grateful," he said quietly, "for the night 3 hitmen made a mistake. For the woman who saw past the apron to the ration cest, person underneath. For the second chance I didn't know I needed. And for every single day since then, that I've gotten to choose this. Choose you. Choose us." Summer made a face. "Dad, you're doing the sentimental thing again." "Can't help it. It's in my contract." Later, after the guests had left and Lily was asleep and Summer was on the phone with friends, Carter and Vanessa stood in the kitchen washing dishes. An ordinary task. An ordinary moment. An extraordinary life. "Think we'll ever get bored?" Vanessa asked, handing him a plate to dry. Carter considered it. "No. How can you be sure? Because boring is what happens when you stop paying attention. And I'll never stop paying attention to you." She smiled, kissed him softly, and handed him another plate. Outside, Mr. Fancy screamed at the moon. Inside, their life continued in all its imperfect perfection. And somewhere between the dirty dishes and the birthday cake, and the daughter sleeping upstairs, and the one growing into herself, and the love that had survived assassination attempts, and family secrets, and every obstacle the world could throw at them, Carter Rhodes understood something fundamental. He'd been trained to save lives, but Vanessa Palmer had saved his. And together, they'd built something worth every bullet dodged, every threat faced, every moment of fear transformed into fierce and unshakable joy. The story that began with hired killers and champagne glasses ended here, in a kitchen on an ordinary Thursday, with soap suds and laughter, and the absolute certainty that home wasn't a place. It was these people, this moment, this choice to keep choosing each other, again and again, for all the days they had left. And that was more than enough. It was everything. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell, so you don't miss any upload from us.